Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the channel. It's Trudeau. I just wanted to discuss my thoughts on a few things going on in the world today. Not new news. It's not anything groundbreaking that no one's ever heard of before, obviously. It's just my thoughts on things that we've all been noticing. As we know, since 2020, inflation has gone crazy. And this kind of ties into a video, actually, the first video I ever uploaded to my channel where I was talking about how to buy a house in 2026 based off my own experience. In 2020, with the pandemic and just everything that happened in the world, inflation went crazy. And it's not news to anybody. The best time to buy a house was like 2017 to 2019 pre-COVID. That was the best time. You got to the summer of 2020 and things just gradually got more expensive and more expensive, and it was hard to buy things during that time because things just weren't as accessible due to supply chain shortages and labor shortages and all this, that, and the other. 2021, it got worse. 2022 was like the worst that it had ever been. And as far as interest rates go, and you saw a lot of things happening in the world that we're still paying for today. I mean, the price of housing, crazy high, groceries, high, gas, but that's unrelated to this issue. That's another problem caused that, which we all know. And that's not the topic of this video, so I'm going to leave it there. But what I wanted to point out was this, tying into the first video I ever made, where I was talking about how to buy a house. As I discussed in that video earlier this year, I bought my first home, which I will never sell um, as long as I live. And this is why. Okay, I was hesitant on buying a house because it is expensive and it's a big commitment. But the reason I went through with it was because of this. I was renting before, and although in my area rent isn't crazy high like it is in California or in New York or other areas around the United States and the world, I do know this. Rent has gone up significantly here in the past 10 years. And so 10 years from now, what will it be like? Because we know from 10 years ago, wages haven't went anywhere. People are still making the same amount of money for the most part, maybe a few more dollars per hour or, five, maybe 10,000 more in their yearly salary than they were 10 years ago. But that hasn't kept up with inflation. Those increases are not enough. And the prices just keep going up every year. Every year they keep going up. Rent gets raised every year. Some weird thing that you buy at the grocery store or your local wholesale store has gone up, anywhere from $1 to $5. And it just keeps happening. It's not going to stop. Like, I think we've all come to the conclusion that it's not going to stop. It doesn't matter who's in office. It doesn't matter what senator you get for your state, what governor, who's the president. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. The prices keep going up. It doesn't matter who takes office. They're not going to bring the prices back down. It doesn't matter. It's never happened. In the times that it has happened, certain prices for certain things have gone down, but other things they've gone up. That's just the way it is. So that was the main motivator for me. That, and I genuinely did want a home. I know I've always wanted one. And I had the opportunity to buy one when I was 24, and I bought one. I don't regret it. At first I kind of did, just because it is more expensive right now, but I know in the future will be significantly cheaper for me, and it will allow me to live a lifestyle away from the man, if that makes sense. Eventually, this house will be paid off. And I won't be working just to pay a bill like rent or a mortgage. I'll be working to buy something else that I want or go somewhere, take a trip, whatever. I'll be working and actually be able to utilize my money. But you can't do that if you're paying rent. You can't do that if you're paying a mortgage, which I am right now, but not forever. Eventually, I won't be. And I make extra principal payments to make sure that that eventually comes sooner rather than later. And so that was the real purpose of this video, was to share that. You see, I'm Gen Z. I'm a Gen Z man. Maybe on the older end of Gen Z. I'm midway through my 20s. So this message, it can help, the older Gen Z like me. It can also help some millennials, the younger millennials. But the people it really can help, if you listen to me, are the younger Gen Z and especially Generation Alpha. Let me tell you guys something that you got to do right now, and you got to take this seriously, okay? You got to lock in. Like, you have to. It's imperative that you lock in because things are not going to get any easier. They're not going to get any cheaper. There's not going to be any shortcuts or any easy way outs. It's never going to happen. So you need to prepare for things to be significantly harder than they are right now in 10 years. Like, if you think it's bad now, 10 years from now, it's going to be worse. This has to be your mindset. Now, hopefully, that's not the case, right? It's nice to have hope, but you got to be prepared for the worst case scenario. You have to in life. You absolutely have to. And if you're not, you're done. You're going to get, for lack of a better term, you're going to get killed out there. This game we play, this life we live, it's not a joke, man. Like, there's homeless people out there who wish they would have made better decisions 5 years ago. Would that have changed their situation? Maybe not, but probably. So right now, while you have time, you need to lock in. And this is what I would say to do. Save up money like a madman. If you're still in high school, work odd jobs, get money. Try to leave high school with like $5,000. Just put away, tucked away. And don't touch it. Leave it. And take that $5,000. And a smart move to do with it would be maybe to take half of it and put it into some index funds so that later on down the line, as you continue to put money into those index funds, you got a nice little goose egg in there. As you continue to put money in there, if you're 18 and you do that, by the time you're 28, you'll be getting dividends back on those index funds that could potentially equal the full-time job that you're working at that time. So now you have two incomes. And that'll especially be the case 20 years after that. Like if you're 18 now, when you're 38, man, you're going to be making good money off those dividends every month. And yes, that's taxed income, but imagine if you're making $7,000 gross from those dividends, and after taxes, you're making like 45 to 5,500, depending on what state you live in and the logistics of your tax rate and all that. That's good money that is passive. You don't have to do anything for that. This should be your goal. That and using money that you're saving and seriously using that money and being very disciplined with it, putting it away and buying a house. It's going to be expensive. You're probably not going to have the full 20% down. Get that out of your head. See, all these financial advisors, they want to tell you, oh, it's smart. You got to do it this way. You got to do this way. Listen, life ain't perfect. Let me break the news to you. You're not perfect. You're going to make mistakes. You're not going to have it all figured out. You might even go in over your head a little bit with some of the expenses and you're going to feel like you're drowning. But if the money that you're putting into those things that make you feel like you're drowning, if that money is going into something that's worth it, like a home, which will eventually be paid off, you got to think about the future. Put in $200 to $300 a month into some index funds when you're already, kind of struggling with money and you got to make some tough decisions on eating a little bit less that week or not going to that party or not going to eat out or not going to that movie or whatever. You got to do it. You have to. Now is the time to start because 10 years from now, that thing that's so expensive that you really wanted is going to be double the price, more than likely. So if it's tough for you now, but doable, you better get on it because 10 years from now, it will be impossible for you. Because I guarantee you things will double in price or close to double in price in 10 years. And the wages that we're making aren't going to double. You'll be lucky if they even go up a quarter from what they are right now. You'll be lucky. It's doubtful. And the way some of these companies are moving with these layoffs and all this, man, wages might even go down in 10 years while everything else goes up. Like, guys, you got to lock in. I'm telling you, this is not an easy life we live. But if you make the right decisions, even though they're tough to make right now, they will be worth it for you in the future. So, I mean, not to go on a huge rant here and to fearmonger anybody, but it's just observations that I'm making, and I'm trying to give you the best advice that I can. Now, you don't have to listen to me. I mean, who am I, right? But I think it's good advice, and it's worked for me. Like I said, I'm in my mid-20s. I'm in a house. I've got a car. I've got a good job. I've got insurance coming in. And yeah, I'm blessed to have those things. It's nothing that I did. It's all glory to God that He has allowed me to have this because it's definitely not anything I did. But the fact that I did it shows you that it's not impossible. And I'm telling you, now is the time to chase after it as opposed to waiting because it ain't going to get easier. And honestly, time's running out on a lot of things. Like, it's crazy out there and it keeps getting crazier. And every year we have some new event that's like, oh man, I can't believe this is going on. And it completely shakes up the economic system that we live in. And this gets so much more expensive and harder to make your ends meet because this is more expensive now. And the price of housing, like no one's buying these houses because they're so expensive. Like, you got to think about this logically. You got to think about the future. Don't think about right now for a second. If it's this bad right now, what will it be like in the future? Even if inflation goes down from what it is right now, there's still going to be inflation. The prices are still going to go up. They're not going to go back down. We have shortages on all these things, especially in tech right now. The RAM shortage, the price of technology is through the roof. Guys, we live in a technological world. Everything's got technology in it. And if the technology is more expensive to make, then the products are going to be more expensive to buy. And they're going to be products you need. You can't live without a phone now. You can't live without a phone. 20, 30 years ago, nobody had phones. What piece of equipment are they making and working on right now and introducing right now that you're not going to be able to live without in 20 years? And it's expensive to make? How much more expensive do you think it's going to be to buy? A lot of these things are wants right now. They're not needs. But that's what was said about this. That's what was said about this not long ago. Not long ago, that was the same case for a phone. A cell phone. Because everybody had home phones. They're like, oh, you don't need one. They're expensive. Now you do need one. You need one now. To get some jobs, they require you to have a phone. And to have a phone, you got to buy the phone and you got to have a phone plan. Listen, things change so rapidly. So to all you young people out there, you Gen Zers, you Gen Alphas, every 3 years, technology goes forward at an exponential rate. In every 5 years or so, there's something that like revolutionizes tech. That's not a lot of time, right? You could see these things happen 3 times in a decade. And the world moves so quickly, it's hard to keep up. So you have to plan ahead. You can't get into this mindset of, "Oh, it's too expensive. I can't do it right now." Okay, well do what you can because it ain't going to get any cheaper. That's what I'm trying to say. That's basically the whole idea behind this is I'm trying to encourage you to seriously lock in and stop worrying about all the reasons why it's bad for you to do it and start to think about all the reasons why it would be beneficial for you to just bite the bullet and go for it. Because if you want to have a wife and kids, especially, you need a house. You don't want to be raising them in an apartment where every single month you're throwing money into the void for rent. And then every year they're increasing the amount of money you have to pay every month. And you're working your butt off to pay these bills. And now your girlfriend or your wife, they got to work too now. Or if you're a woman and you're the breadwinner, now your boyfriend or your husband, they got to work too now. And who's with the kids? Hopefully they're old enough to watch each other, but they're in an apartment. If you had a house and you bought a house early on, early to mid 20s, and you bit the bullet and you just put extra money on the principal and you locked in and tried to pay that house off in like 15 years, especially if you get a 15-year mortgage, which would be the most ideal way to go if you can get approved for a loan like that. You got to think you buy that at 20 years old, at 35, your house is paid off. And that's if you pay no extra on your principal. If you pay extra on your principal and you pay it off in 10 and you buy at 25, at 35, your house is paid off. At 35, as a man, you still have plenty of time to start a family. Now you can raise them in a paid off home. You can just focus on paying your property taxes, putting gas in your vehicles, buying groceries, paying your utilities, which in a nice, fairly new home, not like a brand new home, because some of the energy efficient stuff in the new homes isn't built quite right, but like a home from early 2000s to 2010 to, maybe 2012 range. Those houses, well insulated, nice newer windows, good HVAC systems. They hold the heat in, they hold the cold air in. You're not leaking air out, in your house. Your utility bills aren't that bad. I know mine aren't. For less than $200 a month, all my utilities are paid and I don't use them sparingly. I like my house cool. I keep it cool. My electric bill, it's never more than like $90, if even that. I've had it as low as, under 70 before in this house. In a lot of states, that's not possible. I know California has crazy prices for everything. Your dollar doesn't take you very far in California. So this advice I'm giving you is probably not going to work for you. You're not going to be able to bite the bullet in California. You're going to drown, and that's understandable, but maybe it's time for you to start thinking about your future and leave California. Might be wise, because things ain't going to get easier there, bud. I don't mean to talk in a demeaning manner, but I just keep hearing everybody say these things and have pity parties. And the reality of it is the pity party is distracting you from getting out of all this mess that a lot of people are in. And if you just open your eyes and turn away from the ideal way to do things or the proper way to do things and stop playing the victim and, oh, we need this to change and this has got to change and this price has got to go down so that we can do this. How about you just learn to live in the world we live in now, conquer it so that the world in the future is not a problem for you, or at least a significantly less of a problem. I think that's the mentality we have to have as young people these days. I really do. Because nobody's thinking about us. Everybody says Gen Z is lazy, uh, that we're dumb. We got TikTok brain. I don't even have TikTok, never downloaded it. I'm proud of that, by the way. But they say all these things, they put these labels on us, but they don't know what the world's like for us, and they don't see the future like we see the future. Okay? And they don't have to worry about it as much because they're not going to be around as long. And things are okay for them, so why would they worry about you? You got to look out for yourself. And God willing, he will give you the ability to do so. I think I bumped my microphone there, so apologies for any feedback that came through. I apologize for that. But I guess that was kind of more of a rant, but I do feel like it was necessary to share that because that's kind of the mindset and mentality that I have right now. And maybe some of you will resonate with that, and hopefully some people will listen because I do really believe that it's helpful. You know, having a lot of money in your savings and having a good plan for retirement is nice if that's where you want to put your money. But the reality is, retirement is tough to think about right now because the day to day cost of living is so high that even preparing for retirement now, how far will that money really get you in 30 years? It's time to start thinking about things from a different perspective. You need to think about how in the next 10 to 20 years, I can live comfortably, have a little bit of passive income, and not be throwing money into the void on rent. The way to do that is to buy a house and pay the house off, have no debt, and invest in index funds so that you get some dividends back. That's a solid way to do it. And that's the clearest, easiest path that I think almost anybody could do right now if you focus on a few small things. And if you watch the video on how I said how to buy a house, you can listen to some of the insights I gave to get into the arena of buying one. And once you have one, you pay it off. And along the way, you invest in those index funds. I mean, literally, you could do like $5 to $10 a week right now if you're younger. You know, if you, excuse me, if you're under 18, do some odd jobs, save some cash. When you turn 18, throw a whole lot of money into an index fund. If you have 5K, put 5K, put 2,500 towards a down payment and take the other 2,500 and put it into index funds. And then every week after that, you go get a job, literally any job, gas station, whatever. And you put 5 to 10 a week into those index funds and you save a lot of your money. Live with your parents as long as you can. Keep your expenses as low as you can. Do not take out any major loans, no car loans, unless you have a plan for that. Or if you really need one, and you don't have one, then you won't have a choice, and that's fine. But I would recommend leasing, not buying, because then while you're leasing, you can save up money to potentially buy out the vehicle at the end of the lease. So you're spending less per month for 3 to 5 years, however long you're leasing, and then at the end of that leasing period, any money you save towards the vehicle, say your buyout for that vehicle is $22,000 or $23,000, and your leasing payments like 200 to 300, and you put like an extra 500 per month towards the buyout of that vehicle, then you put that on the buyout, and then if you have to take out a loan for the remainder, your loan will be significantly less. Or if you have enough to buy it out at the end of the lease, then there you go. You did it while you were leasing. You were smart with your money. You're still putting that money into the index funds, and you're trying to save as much money as you can towards a bigger down payment on the house, but you have a nice goose egg of 2,500. And let's say you're doing that and you're 21 years of age at this point, you could potentially have maybe 10 to 12,000 saved up for a house, and you've got the vehicle now, and you didn't take out any other major loans. You have no student loans. You can buy the house now. Along the way, if you get into a trade or something, a lot of times they pay you back for any schooling you have to do, or the schooling is included in the work itself in the trade, and you're making money that way, and you're not having to spend money on school. These are good paths to take, because then if you're 22 years old, 21, 22, by the time you're 32, you might be able to just work part-time because you managed to pay your house off and you own your vehicle and you have money in index funds, which are giving you dividends back already. And so you're just working part-time at a job and the rest of your time is yours. This is how we have to think, you guys. Even if at first it feels like you're drowning and you're not putting enough into savings and you don't have enough, for this, that, and the other. It doesn't matter because the reality is the end goal is worth the struggle. And everybody's struggling right now because it's ridiculously expensive. So it's not like you're the only one struggling. Even if you weren't living like that, you'd still be struggling. So you might as well be struggling with a goal in mind as opposed to just struggling for the sake of the struggle, right? That's the way I see it, at least. But let me know your thoughts. Hopefully people get something out of this. Hopefully it shakes up your mindset a little bit and gets you thinking. I think it's good advice, but I could be way off base, and it's just what's worked for me personally. I don't have the answers for everybody, you know. It is what it is. Um, but yeah, if it resonated with you, share your thoughts in the comments. Maybe we can start a discussion about it. But that's really all I got to say for now. I hope you get something out of it, and thanks for watching. I'll talk to you guys later. Bye for now.